May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing unto you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. So during the season of Advent, leading up to Christmas, I led a class on Wednesday nights that explored the sights and the sounds of Christmas in a way that I think really immersed all of us into Christmas in a really unique and different way. Each week we experienced a different sense: sight, feeling, taste. We didn't do smell, although we talked about it, that maybe we needed to have the real manger and the animals up here and smell that on Christmas Day, but we did decide against that. You're welcome. But we also talked about the sense of hearing. Do you hear what I hear? This wonderful Christmas song, famously recorded by Bing Crosby and then many, many others after that, is a wonderful compilation of the senses during Christmas. But here, on the threshold of a new year, it might be best to pause and listen, to tune into the music that is playing all around us, all the time. Not just the Christmas tunes that disappear from the radio this evening, but rather that music of the spheres, that music of heaven, that music of creation itself. Do you hear it? I love music. For me, music allows me to use all of my senses, and it fills me with emotions that words alone can never accomplish. I love participating in the choir, playing the piano, and belting out my show tunes. But listening to music, really appreciating those who can play and sing far better than I, that, for me, is the ultimate joy. I love to listen to my mother, especially, who plays the organ with such beauty and grace and talent that it really is a true pleasure to hear her on any given Sunday morning when I am visiting Wisconsin, which isn't often anymore, is it? But listening really does not necessarily get one many admirers. I mean, I've not really ever heard anyone say, "Oh my goodness, will you just look at how she is listening to that performance?" Have you ever gotten that compliment? No, I haven't either. But listening, my friends, is essential. And it is a gift of the Spirit. And it is something that we, in our noisy world, well, sometimes we forget to do it. Today's gospel tells several different stories, but they're all about listening. Simeon listened, Mary and Joseph listened, Anna listened, and we must listen. Simeon was a professional listener. He was a man who dedicated his life to listening until it was time for him to sing the song that he'd been listening for, and the song that he learned from listening all those years. And we need Simeon. And we need to listen for a while. And we need to catch the tune and follow the rhythm. Did you know that Simeon's name means heard? Heard. It was what he was born to do. Simeon listened day in and day out at the temple. He listened for the future. He listened for hope. He listened for that which would bring peace and light to a world so desperate for both. He heard the cries of the people. He heard the songs of the loud, happy, celebratory prayers. And he heard the ritual prayers, spoken sometimes as though they had lost their meaning, and sometimes as though the meaning was so deep it resonated through the souls of those who prayed. He heard the wordless prayers that were wept from swollen and reddened eyes, wrung of twisted scraps of cloth between hands so gnarled with pain and fear. He heard the proud and the grateful prayers of people who knew how blessed they were. He heard them all. And he wept and he laughed with each one of them. But he also heard more, because he listened deeper. He heard the responses to those prayers. He heard the signs of the Spirit as it flowed like wisps of comfort into the hearts of those hopeless and broken people. He heard the soothing song of blessing as it played on the hearts, less in tune than his, but aware nonetheless, somehow. He heard the invitation of the God he loved to follow, to obey, to keep close, and to stay away, to watch and to listen. He heard the commandment not as a hammer on a cymbal, but as a finger gently plucking a string. He heard it all. And then one day, Mary and Joseph, a poor teenage couple, walked into the temple to offer their required sacrifice in celebration of the birth of their son. And Simeon heard the music shift to a slightly higher key. A note of anticipation was being fulfilled, and it was his turn to sing. And he lifted that baby, Jesus, high up and sang the song he had heard for so long, the song of hope and peace and anticipation. And it was time for Mary and Joseph to listen and to hear those beautiful words. Do you hear them too? Can you hear all of the cries of the lost and the forgotten? Can you hear all of the cries of the outcast and the broken? Can you hear them crying out in hope and longing for peace and love and acceptance? Are you one of those who cries in the night, who longs to hear Simeon's and Anna's songs of praise and hope? Listen now. Do you hear what I hear? Ringing through the night, shepherd boy, a song high above the trees with a voice as big as the sea. Listen to what I say. Pray for peace, people everywhere. The child sleeping in the night, he will bring us goodness and light. Let us listen more this new year and really hear the goodness and the light and the peace that the Christ child brings. Amen.